Oh, it's just Jord.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Little Nightmares theory. And first of all, I'd like to apologise because I've been rather inactive this past week. I've been rather ill, which you could probably still hear by my voice actually. I sound a bit like a robot. But anyway, no one cares about that. Let's get into today's theory, and ladies and gentlemen, the spoiler warning is very necessary for what we're talking about today. So please, if you do not want to be spoiled or you haven't completed the game or the DLCs, look away now or click and find another recommended cat video on the side. Okay, good, you're still here. Right, so today's theory is a big one, and I want to remind you that the past video that I did with the data mine, in that video that we explored around the files of Little Nightmares, and we looked into the files to explore a bit more of the game and get an understanding, I had to look in these files recently because of an upcoming theory I'm making. But anyway, I've had to have a look in there again, and what I found was absolutely awesome. So, one of the first things that I wanted to show you is how the developers inputted the shadows into the game at the end of the hideaway. It's actually a very clever technique to use in the Unreal Engine. So what I'm showing you now is the model for the boy and the girl shadow. Now, because you saw the shadows in the light doesn't necessarily mean that the kids are still there in a story aspect. Like I said in my previous video, I think it's a way for the story to progress and to tell us about one of the many questions as a community we all had about the gnomes. So the way you would do this in the Unreal Engine, when it comes to a light source, when a light hits an object or material, I haven't used Unreal Engine in a while, so bear with me if I forget a few details. But you have the capabilities in the engine to set other objects as a shadow, which is known as a different cast. So in effect, when the light hits the object or material, the programmers and designers can manipulate the blueprint so that when it hits a certain object, it can change the cast settings to a different object, such as the boy or girl. So hats off to the team at Tarsier Studios. Another part of the data mine which I wanted to talk about was the gnome child scribbles, is what it's called in the files. So that's a double confirm that our last theory was correct about the children being the kids, and well, if it weren't bloody obvious now, it won't be in the future. But aside from that, I wanted to show you the images close up, and if you put them in a particular order, they seem to make a little story. The first image that we see is two children holding hands, and the second is the janitor, and the third is two gnomes holding hands. Cute. But when we come with the fourth image, which is titled Scribble 02, now I find this interesting because it's not named, and to me it seems like it's done on purpose to protect the actual image of story. So I will go on a limb and say that I think that this image is the North Wind. Then after that we have image 5, which is even odder, and it's called 6i. When I read this I already assumed that it was 6, but how could it be, why and when? I think that will need some more research into it. And then for the final image we have the eye in the TV named TV01, which seems the end of the story to me. So from what I can take of the whole layout of the images and where they are and what they look like, it seems to be telling the story, confirming the story that the kids are just kids, then they get took by the janitor, then they get wrapped up, put into gnomes, and then what happens from that point on is something we could all discuss. And yet again, it needs more research. Now here comes the big one. So that all the data we've got today, we know is extracted from the data mined from a specific folder in a specific tree. And we know this because it's the hideaway, it's titled the hideaway, the folder's called the hideaway, all the materials, objects and textures, materials again, have all been updated and they are all there in a correct log. But there is one folder that I want to share with all of you that could be the answer to the next chapter, the name of it and where it leads. And I did leave a trivia on my YouTube community tab the other day to see if anyone can get the decipher right, and I hinted at it basically. But there was only one person that got it right, so GG Brandon, well done. So there is a folder in the DLC's folders called Eerie. Now at first I thought nothing of it until I began to look into it, and what's odd for me is this has a subfolder and it has a UMAP titled Level Eerie DLC Start. So from the name we can assume that there is a level start and it's another DLC. Could this be related to the hideaway start? No, I doubt that very much. As I said earlier, everything contained is in the right folders, so this would have to be in the hideaway folder. And another little feature that I find interesting is the file actually has data inside it. It's not a lot of data, but there's still some data there. So, for the name Eerie, so there are two official meanings to the word eerie, and the first is, quote, a large nest of eagle or of a bird of prey built high in a tree or on a cliff, end quote. And there's the second one, quote, a high, inaccessible place from which someone can observe what is below them, end quote. So, the second definition to me is the one that hits the nail on the head, and I've seen this before in Little Nightmares, and it's the start of the Guests chapter, where she's on the balcony watching the guests come in. So could this mean the next DLC will start at the Guests? That would make sense in order, but if we take the definition and the titling and the fact that where it all is, it seems to piece together very well. Now, I hope that this theory is right, because I think that would be mega cool, that if we get to face off the lady or something. I think we will. But anyway, time will tell. We'll find out in February, I believe. So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and I can't wait for the new DLC, even if I am wrong. But anyway, let me know what you guys think, and don't forget to subscribe if you like what you're watching, and I wish you all the best, and I'll see you in the next theory. Bye!